and welcome to Night.Homily. Today we're going to be talking about the cult of image, Gen Z, the internet, and Neo-Victorianism. As a culture, we're obsessed with image. We pray to be perfect and consume instructional scripture through media, all while celebrities masquerade as gods. We do this in the stained glass light of our digital church, and morning till night we worship. I feel like, as a society, in the West at least, we're kind of like Neo-Victorians. We're entangled in a web of aesthetics and respectability politics. The only difference here is the expression of these things. Our contemporary equivalent sees aesthetics reduced to internet cause and respectability politics in the 1 minute, I can get my words out, and respectability politics in the form of cringe culture. Children today, later born Gen Z and Gen Alpha, are exposed to images that express a curated image of perfection. I should say perfection in quotes. When the screen dies, or the screen is switched off at night, they're left with their own reflection, an obsidian mirror. Here they can contemplate their own perfection, or lack thereof. Sorry if I sound a little nasally, by the way. The weather's been weird and my sinuses don't know how to react to that. It's strange. I don't like it. I feel like I'm catching a cold, but I'm definitely not. Anyway, this is off topic. What is a cult? A cult is a religious or in part religious group. The group typically possesses unusual beliefs and oftentimes tends to isolate their members from the outside world. Don't know why I just raised an entire decibel. I'm sorry. They target vulnerable people, recruit using love bombing, protection, and support. Later, they persuade and brainwash their members. What is image? Image is a strange thing to define, and you might be wondering why I'm defining it, since it sounds obvious. But I think we need to be clear on what we're discussing. So, image is broad and can be used to define a multitude of concepts. Here I'll be discussing it in terms of art, culture, the internet, and identity. You know, you just choke when your own spit. Give me a minute. I'm so sorry. Image most often refers to the visual likeness of an object or subject through photo, digital media, or art. Here's a little tangent. Bear with. So according to Google, because you know I love my little tangents. Just let me. According to Google, the word image picked up in popularity around the 1960s, and then spiked in the 1980s, which is interesting because the introduction of the internet was in 1983. I'm interested to see if this is like anything to do with, anyway, what am I trying to say? I don't know. But yes, the spike doesn't really surprise me. I assume people were more inclined to use the term to describe an increase in visual media outside of television and art. Moving on, Ariana Grande. What can we learn about image through hers? I mean, methodologically, this doesn't make sense to just throw Ariana Grande in here, but I recognize that her image is more likely to hold engagement than discussions on theory and philosophy from the get-go. So we're going to be talking about Ariana Grande for a little bit. So, who is Ariana Grande? Most of us know her. Most of us are familiar with her. But she started out as a child actress cast by Nickelodeon for the role of Cat Valentine in Victorious, 2010, after her Broadway debut. So Grande is of interest to me because she adopts the popular image of the time. 1 minute, I skipped an entire paragraph. Her popularity in Victorious proved profitable to the producers at Nickelodeon, which led to her role in Sam and Cat in 2013. From there, she jumped straight into her pop career, becoming largely popular around 2014. It did take her a few times, though. There were some hurdles in there with, what was it? Lift Your Hearts Up or something? That was a moment that she had to overcome. Moving on. Ariana Grande's image has shifted over the years. Most of us have witnessed her various race changes from Blackiana to Arigato Grande and back to Ariana again. Ariana's aesthetics interests me because she adopts the popular image of the time to boost her own. When black and brown artists were succeeding, she shifted to assume that shape and color. She was like literally 4 shades darker. I I remember this vividly. But I'm gonna gloss over that. I'm gonna gloss over that for a minute, or maybe for the entire essay. We're talking about image appropriation will be touched on with regard to Grande, but moving on from the 4 shades darker. When K-pop was on the rise, she ditched the tan, winged out her eyeliner further, and also dressed differently. This isn't to say that she had no prior interest in the cultures she so flippantly adopted. I don't know the woman, obviously, but she always seemed to respect R&B and black artists. She also has always given me like weeb energy, like not intense weeb energy, but like a little bit of weeb energy, you know. And I feel like she had an interest in anime in Japan. I mean, she did like learn a little bit of Japanese, but like, did she, or was it just like a few phrases? I don't know, but she was giving weeb. She was giving weeb a little bit. And I feel like this interest may have extended further to include other East Asian countries, including Korea. And with K-pop being on the rise, she saw how profitable it would be, also how cute the makeup was, because let's be honest, K-beauty is really fun. Love to see it. Yeah. Oh, what was I saying? Sorry, I've lost my point. So I don't go off script. Oh yeah, yeah. The issue comes from profiting off of other cultures and being able to take it off at the end of the day. This is common sense, though. This is a very basic definition of cultural appropriation. So, yeah. Moving on, I'm interested in dissecting the image of Ariana Grande, given that she's presently one of the most popular pop stars we have today. She has such a specific image, or images, um, and I could have picked a celebrity like Beyonce, but I haven't seen many people aiming to emulate her in the same way. I think it's because the the character of Beyonce outside of herself, like the image of Beyonce, is so unattainable to begin with. It's so curated. She is a Virgo, as is Zendaya, and those are two people that you just can't emulate. I feel like Virgos. This is not an astrology chat, but you just can't. They're just so adept at curating the perfect image. I mean, it makes sense astrologically, but again, this is not an astrology chat. So, moving on. So, Grande has managed to consistently alter her image to suit the aesthetic needs of the time. However, it feels to me that her identity does not match up with the image that she curated during her earlier years. I think that this disconnect shifted after her role as Glinda the Good Witch in Wicked, where she's able to invest in her passion, musical theatre. She kind of gives method acting. Like, she kind of gives that. I don't know if she is doing that. I think she did have a discussion, like a little conversation with Penn Badgley, and they both do that. I mean, method acting is traditionally a masculine thing. There's a lot of history to that, and a lot of misogyny in it too, I think. But again, that's not what this little piece is about, so we won't delve into that. But she does seem to, whatever she's working on, adopt the persona of whatever she is doing. So she has, in recent months, been fully Glindified. Fully. There is no Ariana outside of Glinda and no Glinda outside of Ariana at the moment. They have merged. They are one. It's like Sue from the Substance. She's like, Glinda is the little Sue crawling out of Ariana's back. That's a horrifying image, and I'll never say that again, I promise. So, just moving my little page. Similar to artists like Megan Thee Stallion, Ariana Grande, despite the allure of her image, seems like a celebrity that wants to be recognized more for the aspects of her personality than rather than just her image. So she seems truly excited and engaged in performances that elicit emotional responses. things that spur tears, smiles, or that make people laugh. I assume that this is due to her background in musical theatre, the core of what she projects throughout her work. She's definitely drawn back from the bombshell image she adopted in her later 2010s. Now that she's established a core audience, she's comfortable enough to curate her image in a softer direction. I also do feel like she's really hoping to be casted for an Audrey Hepburn biopic. Don't know if that's in the works at all, if that's going to be a thing in a few years. But if it is, she wants the role. I think she's managed to direct her image in a direction that is direct her image in a direction. I think she's been able to what am I trying to say? Give me 1 second. This is off script, but like I truly believe this. She's managed to, through Glinda, present an image of herself that is Ariana, the actress, as opposed to just Ariana, the pop star. And I think she sees Audrey Hepburn as a classic icon that is timeless and will forever be loved. I think she aspires to this. She's always had a kind of slightly retro feel to her style, to her interests. She can do that, what is it, the transatlantic accent.
Bunny and I ran to the closet of the game room to get another ping pong ball, and the closet was locked. Imagine.
I think some of my fans will not like how short it is, which I understand.
Ariana Grande now has a transatlantic accent. Fans are noticing how she just always kind of changes her personality to whoever she hangs out with. And this accent kind of makes sense because she's been in London a lot, and transatlantic is kind of like a mix of both in a way. The British elongate their vowels and they use pitch to emphasize words more than we do. But it just kind of makes me wonder, like, who's the real Ariana Grande? Does she have, like, identity issues? What's going on?
That old American Hollywood voice that no one actually has, the accent that no one has, but it's purely cinematic, and she's done that in the past. She's adopted retro styles. I would be surprised to know that Audrey Hepburn isn't an inspiration to her, and I think that with her role as Glinda in Wicked, she's definitely going to push for that role as Audrey, given the silhouette she's been wearing, the way she's been presenting herself and acting. It's all been very sweet and wholesome and very Audrey-like. But back to the script. She's drawn back from the bombshell image, as I was saying, and curated a softer image. She has more control over the way that she is able to present herself now that she's truly like well established in her field, meaning that she can, if she wants to, reject a hypersexual image, something that a lot of women don't have the option to do unless they have that clout. People are there for her personality, and she recognizes that if people love her personality, she doesn't have to show anything she doesn't want to, which isn't saying it's a bad thing, just saying that misogyny runs Hollywood and the music industry. So the choice is not in the artist's hands when, well, not always in the artist's hands. There's a lot of control, a lot of coercion, a lot of very uncomfortable things happening behind closed doors that we don't see and we don't want to think of, but we know we kind of have that gut instinct. But anyway, she's able to curate an image that she wants at the moment, and I'm bringing in the desexualization of Ariana Grande aesthetically, definitely not lyrically, as we're seeing that major cultural shift currently towards a more conservative image, meaning a desexualization of, or desexualization in terms of fashion. as we move towards conservatism, because women will always be seen under the patriarchy as objects of desire, as tools, not as people. And men will always control, unless there is pushback, what women wear. But the ideal is a kind of, it is a wife. It's a wife. It's someone who is very beautiful, very alluring to other people, but is not overtly sexual, because that also has its own power. So they wouldn't pick someone like a conservative, a traditional, very traditional conservative, not all, very traditional conservative person wouldn't pick someone like Megan Thee Stallion unless she was, very modestly dressed. They would pick someone like Ariana Grande in her little dresses, And I'm talking specifically for the Wicked press launch, not her looks before. But I'm finding this interesting because the 2010s felt like the pinnacle of neoliberalism. It was like a slurry of overconsumption, caffeine addiction, and half-dressed pop idols screaming female empowerment. And it was during this time that Ariana Grande was at her most overtly sexual in the way that she dressed, with the bunny ears, with the bodices. I thought the outfits were really cute, but they were obviously selling a very specific image to increase sales. And this is shifted now that she has more agency, and now that she's also been in a film that she has wanted to do her whole life, which is cool. I'm not saying sexuality isn't empowering. I'm just arguing the validity of its statement in the music industry and in Hollywood, where these presentations are overseen and dictated largely in part by men, as I've mentioned prior. So, the image of the sexually liberated woman is prepared for a man's appetite. She's seen and consumed by the male gaze. Here, the extent of her liberation and sexual power is put under question. As we move into a new conservative era, we see the male gaze manifest in a different way. Women are made to dress modestly, but never ugly. They must exist within the ideal male companion, the engineered image of the wife. If I stuck to my script, I could have said that in like 2 minutes. But I went all around the houses because I decided to go off script. This is why I stick to one. Moving on. Image and identity. Identity is a complex and nuanced topic, comprised by a series of layers of self-recognition and temporal experiences. Identity is a conscious or intuitive sense of sameness over time. Our identity is closely tied to our image, how we represent ourselves to be. Our image is an external manifestation of our internal contents, or what we wish them to be. The Cambridge Dictionary defines self-image as being the way a person feels about his or her personality. I'm going to add there. Achievements and value to society. The image of a person is becoming more and more defined in a physical sense. We curate our lives through social media, our faces, clothes, and bodies. There's no way to possess a perfect image, but Lord knows people will die trying. You could say that our identity represents ourselves, while our image represents our brand. This brings us on to identity under capitalism, in particular, marketing aimed at selling to younger and younger audiences. 2024 has seen a surge in Sephora kids, which is exactly what it sounds like. Young kids, mostly girls, aged 12 and under, being influenced and sold beauty products. Self-esteem, identity, and image can be really difficult for young people, as they haven't always had the same time to fully recognize their consistent habits and self-sameness. This is a worry in the context of Sephora kids, because the products being sold to them, beauty, targets their self-image directly. The consumer is getting younger and younger, or at least it is appearing that way. The image of youth. Adults are trying to turn the clock back to their firm-fleshed younger selves, slicing, starving, and electrostimulating themselves into the ideal image of beauty, an image reflective of youth. Meanwhile, literal children are trying to preemptively delay the process of aging, while simultaneously dressing older to follow the trends of their older peers. This isn't a new phenomenon, and the trends of the times are endless. The quest for beauty has been brutal for centuries, tied up in misogyny and class disparity. The image of pop culture. Wait, what? Oh, sorry, I missed a full stop. I'm going to start again. Pop culture and celebrity are almost inextricably linked to the formation of self-image and sometimes self-identity, with celebrities being able to alter their image either in terms of branding or physically through procedures. It comes as no surprise that self-image of people is difficult to maintain. The concept of celebrity has existed for centuries, but picked up in popularity around the late 18th century and 19th century, with the introduction of mass circulation of newspapers and tabloids. The 18th and 19th century are the Victorian era, to be, just to remind you guys of how that's relevant to the title of this essay. The Victorians had a preoccupation with beauty and aesthetics. Unlike the Georgians before them, the Victorians were not infused by the idea of heavy or noticeable makeup. The Victorians were the clean girls or no makeup girlies of the 19th century. Heavy makeup was reserved for performers, prostitutes, and actresses, with the everyday or respectable Victorian opting to enhance their features undetectably. Morality and image. Morality has been tied to image for centuries, but I believe that this correlation is most noticeable during the Victorian era and today. The vanity aspect of the mirror was rooted in Protestant ideals. It was represented through the vanitas, a Latin term for the painting style that represents the brevity of life and uselessness of earthly possessions and desires. It's interesting to me how we carry our phones around every day, little mirrors in screen and lens. Our phones have become extensions of ourselves, and they remind us of our own individualism through social media, data extraction, and personalization. We exist within the colonial image etched into the veil that covers the West. We navigate it through the tempered glass screens of our phones, the imperial lens fashioned from minerals mined by children. The Industrial Revolution and the image of success. The Industrial Revolution spurred some of the most notable developments during the Victorian era. Similarly to how the development of digital technologies has and is continuing to shape our own. The image of success, like all other forms of image, is subjective. However, this one is a bit more recognizable and uniform. It relies heavily on modes of being attached to an ideological framework within which it sits. Success is defined by the dominant regions and ideologies, and today that is Western capitalism. Thus, it is colonial by default. The colonial image. The emphasis on the image or visual is a colonial one in and of itself. The term aesthetics is a historically determined Western notion and invented formal category with which to theorize the senses of a human subject. It reflected a set of principles determined by European intellectual men that focused on specific human subjects, whose senses and subjectivity they believed were the only ones that mattered themselves. Taste was considered a matter of reflection on the senses that only the evolutionary superior species could engage. The image is the primary method of experiencing the world in the West. History is recorded through text, not retold orally. Paintings were at one point the only acceptable reflections of the visible world, always in perfect perspective. It is still the height of sensory understanding, and our phones a testament to that. Phrenological madness. Phrenology is the oftentimes deeply racist and long debunked pseudoscience of skulls. It seeks to measure the intelligence, personality, and traits/moral character of a person from the shape and size of their skull. It was invented in about 1796, but was popularized throughout the Victorian era. The phrenological hellscape that we're currently in sees us measuring our own beauty using filters, internet categories, and looks maxing. People are cutting themselves up, swapping sleep for skincare, and mewing themselves into a deep, dark madness. What emerges from all of these beautification rituals? I don't know why I said that. I'm just going to cut that out. That's stupid. Like, I need to actually just write better. Oh, okay, it does make sense. And what emerges from all of these beautification rituals? The hope of looking acceptable, pretty enough to move upward through the world. And what does that pretty look like? Eurocentric, of course. There are features taken from other cultures and races, but the ideal culmination of these puzzle piece body pieces is the image of the ideal white woman under the thumb of a man. The philosophy of image and perception is complex, hence I probably won't be able to tackle its definition in great depth. I'm not a philosopher. It's been difficult for me to find concrete investigations into our perception and comprehension of images, with most studies focusing mostly on language. What I have found, however, seems to be more aligned with philosophy, history, and aesthetics. I didn't feel like sifting. Oh, why did I just like? That's kind of scary. I didn't feel like sifting through the innumerable volumes of the historian Ernst Gombrich, and thus I have attempted to define image only very loosely here. The point where a person becomes aware of something is where they are considered to be perceiving. Everything that occurs afterwards is considered semantics, the process by which we impart meaning onto a percept or object. Art historical and contemporary artworks that concern themselves with image theory tend to not define the concept of image due to its subjectivity and difficult to defineness. Subtracting aura points. Walter Benjamin will be turning in his grave. Also, I say Walter Benjamin instead of Walter Benjamin because in my I haven't. Oh my gosh! During my art history classes at uni, my art history professor would say Walter Benjamin, and so that's just what I say now. Like whenever I read it, that's how I read it. So I hope that's not too annoying. Aura, for those who aren't chronically online, refers to, for lack of a better word, the vibe of a person. The vibe. Losing aura points is essentially like losing cool points. And personally, I feel like I've lost at least 60 in trying to define to begin with. The aura of an image, as defined by Walter Benjamin, is a work's relationship to its spatial temporal context. Oh, and cultural context, of course. Without these facets, an image can be thought of as lacking aura. This is something we might understand better when we relate it to the rise of AI images and soulless corporate reproductions of pre-existing works. Soulless corporate reproductions! I really went in. I hate them, clearly. It's very intense. But I wouldn't say it's hyperbolic, I would say it's still true. So I won't make you suffer through seeing yet another generative AI image that Walter Benjamin might have described as having minus 100 aura points. I clearly hate AI images and I was going through it writing this because the intensity with which I am hating on them is unmatched. What makes your standard generative AI art lacking in aura is its reduction of context. It obviously, as everything in this world does, possesses a level of context which we can extrapolate from its prompt system and model. The difference, however, is that its process of creation can sometimes be quite singular, with reproductive styles, colours, and motifs being reproduced through multiple prompts. Its reproducibility is what reduces its aura. There is no doubt that when worked over a long period There is no doubt that when worked over a longer period of time with hyperspecific prompts, it can produce interesting and beautiful works of art. AI, like us, is not a monolith and is still relatively young. I believe that in the very near future, generative AI will continue to grow. It will create, and let's be honest, probably already has created, works of an undeniably high aura. A debatedly near completely auraless image would be, in my opinion, the corporate logo or symbol. We have here something solely made to increase profit. There is a charm and maybe some aura to it, to specific iterations of a logo, probably mostly tied to nostalgia, but the weight feels like it comes more from the collective interest than it does from the symbol itself. So, effectively, auraless. Without people to consume, it would be auraless. So on to Neo-Victorianism. Neo-Victorianism refers to our social, cultural, artistic, and moral interest in the modes and methods of the Victorian era. I feel like we're shaping our current era into something that looks like it. The Victorian era, that is. We see today a kind of reshuffled morality politics due to the upsurge in conservatism. We're policing our own modes of self-expression through unrealistic images of perfection and respectability. To conclude, it's kind of ridiculous to me that our relationship to image is so close to Victorian aesthetics. I worry that, given the current socio-economic climate across the West, that we're speeding through 19th century ontologies, ways of being, headed next towards the horrors of the 20th. And I mean horrors of the 20th century. We don't want to be there. I'm beginning to wonder whether we need to place such an emphasis on image, or if we can embrace other senses and modes of perception more equally to gain a broader understanding of the world around us. What can we gain through touch, taste, smell, language, and intuition? How much greater could our scope be? Maybe I'm wrong about everything I've just presented here. It's hard to know. Image is such a strange concept, and its manifestations are almost entirely subjective. We are in the world's largest cult, the cult of image, a Neo-Victorian era. I'm done! I hope you enjoyed that. I know I went on a little bit of a tangent and a rant about AI imagery. I couldn't help myself apparently, and it felt like it would be a disservice to myself to not read it out, given how much passion was put into the writing of it. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'm sorry it took so long to make this video. I've been a little bit busy, which is weird because I feel like I'm not busy, but things just like happen in the day that I can't really like get out of. Anyway, I filmed now, so I'll see you in the next one. Bye!